Ishida is a high school student who has been living a suffocating life for the past few years. He quits his part-time job and sells all his books, clothes, and mattress. With all the money he received, Ishida put it next to his mother. Afterward, he goes to a bridge and stands on top ready to take his life. But why would a young boy go to such lengths? What is it he experienced that made him think about taking his life? To know about it, we have to go back a couple of years when Ishida is still in elementary school. Unlike the present, he is more energetic, cheerful, and an extrovert person who enjoys hanging out with his friends, Shimada and Kei. Together they spent a lot of time doing various things. One day, a transfer student named Shoko joined his class. Strangely, she takes out her notebook and uses it to introduce herself. It's revealed that Shoko is deaf. On knowing this, everyone in the class is surprised. For Ishida, this is the girl who is going to make a huge impact on his life. Like any other student, other girls try to become friendly and communicate with Shoko using her notebook. During class, a girl named Naoka helps Shoko in making his keeping up with the notes. During choir practice, Shoko tries to sing, but her voice is underdeveloped, and she sounds like a child who doesn't know how to spell words correctly. And after this, we see that some of the students like Naoka are already getting irritated. During literature class, due to bad pronunciation, Naoka is scolded by Takeuchi-sensei. But when Shoko had trouble speaking properly, Takeuchi didn't scold her. And this made Naoka a bit pissed. When it's Ishida's turn, he starts speaking like Shoko and ends up getting scolded. As days pass by, it starts to become clear that the girls who were curious to make Shoko their friend start ignoring her. In the park, just to make sure she is not hurt, they lie about going to their home when in reality they are going to some other place to have fun. After they leave, Shoko notices Ishida and asks if he will be her friend. But because she sounds weird, Ishida doesn't understand and is grossed out. The next day, a teacher specializing in sign language joins the school, so that the students can understand Shoko much better. However, Naoka objects. She asks if writing in her notebook is not enough. The teacher replies it would be easier for Shoko, but Naoka is not very interested. Out of all the students, a girl named Sahara volunteers to learn sign language. And eventually she becomes friends with Shoko and starts spending time together. But Naoka didn't like it. She makes fun of Sahara being chubby and pointing out how lame her clothes are. And eventually, Sahara couldn't endure the bullying and changed her school. One day, Shoko bought a pair of hearing aid, so it can help her in listening a little better. But during class, Ishida shouts in her ear. And later in the day, Naoka takes a hearing aid and gives it to Ishida, who throws it away. Day after day, Shoko keeps on buying new hearing aids, but Ishida throws them and bullies her nonstop. But one day, when he takes them out, blood starts to come from Shoko's ear. Unlike earlier ones, these were firmly attached to her ear. So when Ishida pulled them, it hurt her and led to bleeding. After school, Shoko comes in front and requests Ishida if he will become her friend. But Ishida gets pissed and throws away her book. The next day, Shoko didn't come to the school. And the reason becomes clear when the principal visits the class and addresses the issue that in the past 5 months, Shoko has either lost or broken 8 of her hearing aids. The principal shares how Shoko's mother fears that someone in the class is bullying her. And because the cost of hearing aids is around $2,500, she doesn't want her daughter to continue the school until the person responsible is caught. And that's why the principal asks the students to come forward if they know who is behind it. On hearing the cost, Ishida is terrified to raise his hand, because his mother cannot afford to pay such an expense. But Takeuchi-sensei furiously demands Ishida to stand up. He asks Shimada and Naoka to tell everyone all the things Ishida did to Shoko. To Ishida's surprise, both of them didn't defend him, and ends up revealing all the things he did. Ishida starts to panic. He starts blaming Shimada as well as Naoka and other girls who were also bad-mouthing Shoko. But in the end, everyone knows it was Ishida who did the most harm. After school, Shimada and Kei throw him into the pond for blaming them. After they leave, Ishida finds Shoko's notebook that he threw earlier. When he arrives home, his mother, Miyako, is notified about his bullying. Immediately, she takes out the money and goes to meet Shoko's mother to compensate and apologize. And from the next day onward, Ishida, who used to be the one bullying Shoko, now becomes a victim himself. One day, when he goes to his class, he notices Shoko is wiping off his desk. He finds it weird and asks what she was doing. Shoko smiles. But this makes Ishida furious. He is creeped out to see her smile and asks her to speak if she wants to say something. As he pushes her, Shoko bites him and they end up having a fight. And from the next year, Shoko transfers to another school. When Ishida tries hanging out with Shimada, he is shut off by him. Shimada tells everyone to not hang out with Ishida because he is a bully. Because of this, Ishida's life was suddenly filled with loneliness. For someone who used to be energetic, surrounded by friends, it was suffocating for Ishida. That's why back in the present, Ishida has decided to take his life. But as he is about to jump, Ishida realizes he just doesn't want to die this early, without making things right. So from tomorrow, he continues going to his usual sign language learning class. But there he has an unexpected encounter with Shoko. He calls her and asks if she remembers him. But Shoko didn't reply and runs away. Ishida follows her. When he finds her, he returns her notebook. Using sign language he is learning, he asks Shoko if she would become his friend. It was at this point, Ishida realizes that all this time, Shoko was asking him to be her friend. Shoko agrees and later they go out to feed bread to the fishes. The scene shifts to the next day. During breakfast, Ishida's mother, Miyako, suddenly asks Ishida the reason he is trying to kill himself. She went to his room and noticed all his books, clothes, and even his mattress is not there. And on top of all this, there was a strange calendar that was ripped off from the month of April. All these things are enough to prove Ishida was going to harm himself. She demands him to promise her that he will never think of such a thing, or else she will burn these $12,000 he has put his hard work in. In front of Ishida, his mother's image came when she had to sell her earrings in order to compensate for Shoko's hearing aids. He immediately gets on his knees and promises that he won't do it again. Miyako has relief. The next day, Ishida goes to his school to attend his new grade. He enters the school and covers his ear. Everyone has a cross mark on their face, which means these are people Ishida doesn't consider his friend. As he sits, he notices like usual other students are gossiping about how he is always alone and are so disgusted they wonder if he will die alone as well. During lunch, while he is eating alone, he notices another student sitting next to him eating alone as well. Ishida didn't say anything and after school ends go home. The next day, when he arrives at school, he notices the same boy requesting help because another student is forcing him to give up his bike. Ishida approaches and gives his bike instead. And as expected, even after days he didn't receive his bike. After school, Ishida goes to meet Shoko, but a kid stops him and tells him that only Shoko's friends can meet her. With no other option, Ishida goes to his home. On his way, he sees the same guy who was requesting help has his bike. The boy shares how he found the bike dumped in a field. And because Ishida's name was written on it, he came to return it. The cross mark falls. Ishida asks his name, and it's Tomo. From the next day, they start hanging out. They talk in class, watch movies, and eat in restaurants. At first, it was a bit unusual for Ishida, but he soon starts to enjoy it. During lunch, Ishida, upon remembering the kid telling him that only friends can meet Shoko, he starts to wonder what exactly is a friend. What are the requirements that he needs to fulfill in order to qualify for it? He asks Tomo's opinion. And like a gangsta, he replies that a friendship defies logic or words. It doesn't have any requirements. Listening to Tomo's opinion, Ishida again goes to meet Shoko. But the same kid stops him and tells him that he is Shoko's boyfriend, Yuzuru. Yuzuru asks if Ishida is here to sympathize with Shoko and make himself feel better than he can leave. Just then, Tomo comes and grabs Yuzuru's collar. He is furious and demands the reason he is not letting Ishida inside the room. The other people inside the room notice and try their best to stop them. Shoko finally sees Ishida and goes outside to have a talk. As they are talking, from afar, Yuzuru uses his camera to spy on them. Using sign language, Ishida tells how for days he was trying to understand what friendship means. And when he get a little insight, he came to meet her. Shoko is glad to hear it. Afterward, both of them feed the bread to the fish. But then Shoko takes out her notebook and tries asking about a particular part. Ishida doesn't want to answer it and tells her to put it back. But accidentally, the book falls into the river. Shoko immediately jumps to take it out, and Ishida also follows along. Yuzuru, seeing them together, is getting worried. So he decides to punish Ishida by creating a fake social media account and posting his image with the caption, "Anyone got the balls to beat me?" And soon the post gets viral in Ishida's school. Because jumping from the bridge is banned, the school suspends him for a week. Since Ishida is at home, Miyako requests him to pick up his niece, Maria. Ishida agrees. While she is playing, he is waiting for her. But after Maria sees someone, she calls Ishida. Ishida goes and sees the person is Yuzuru. He wakes him up and asks the reason he is here. Yuzuru doesn't answer his question, but instead asks Ishida if he is not angry at him for tweeting a fake post that got him suspended. Ishida is not mad, because it's understandable considering Yuzuru is Shoko's boyfriend. After knowing Yuzuru has run away from home after a fight with his parents, Ishida takes him to his home. There, Yuzuru has a bath and dinner. At night, when Ishida is asleep, Yuzuru sneaks out because he doesn't want to give any more trouble. But Ishida soon catches up to him and gave the umbrella. Yuzuru, with a frustrated tone, demands the reason Ishida is trying to be so kind towards him. Because Yuzuru knows what Ishida has done to Shoko, and how much she suffered because of the bullying. And now, seeing Shoko's bully has learned sign language, trying to understand the meaning of a friend, disgusts him. Ishida knows what he has done is unforgivable. He knows he is disgusting and shouldn't be even alive. But despite all the things he did, Ishida wants to at least make up with Shoko and try to become a better person. Yuzuru is moved. He forgives him. Soon they reach his home. Before leaving, Yuzuru reveals that he is actually Shoko's little sister and was just lying about being Shoko's boyfriend. Ishida is just speechless. But before they could part ways, Shoko's mother, Yeiko, comes furiously and slaps Ishida. Without saying a word, she takes away Yuzuru. At home, Yeiko tells Yuzuru to not meet Ishida ever again. But Yuzuru is against it, because she wants to decide that by herself. The following day, Tomo meets with Shoko and also got to know Yuzuru is actually a girl. Ishida gives his phone number to Shoko just in case there is anything he can help her with. Shoko asks if he knows Sahara's phone number. Unfortunately, Ishida doesn't know. So to make sure he can help Shoko reunite with Sahara, he decides to ask Miki about it. Miki shares the school in which Sahara goes. So after class, with Shoko, he goes to meet her. On the train, Shoko shows her appreciation to Ishida for going to so much trouble just to help her. After they arrive, they soon meet Sahara. Sahara apologizes for being a coward and leaving suddenly. But she expresses how much she was worried about Shoko. Shoko is very glad to reunite with her. While they are talking, Ishida goes somewhere else. On his way, he has an unexpected encounter with Naoka, who gives him a coupon for a cat shop. Both of them didn't talk and just go their separate ways. The following day, Ishida disguises himself and with Tomo, he goes to see Naoka. But Naoko is quick to realize the person in the mask is Ishida. She gets nervous. It has been years since they last met, and for now, she doesn't want to meet him. After some time, when Naoka didn't come, Ishida buys a gift for Shoko and gives it to Yuzuru. At home, when Yuzuru gives it to Shoko, she finds her crying because Shoko again failed her hearing test. The next day, Ishida, on his way home, has a sudden encounter with Naoka. Naoka expresses how much glad she is to meet him again, and suggests they should hang out like they used to. But Ishida immediately refuses. She asks if he still hates her because of what happened in elementary school. Ishida assures her he doesn't hate her anymore. He just wants to forget his past. Across the road, Shoko is holding a cat pouch that Ishida gave her. Naoka sees it and understands it's from her shop. She is creeped out and wonders how did she even get that. Ishida tells her it was he who gave Shoko. Naoka is amazed to know it. She gets off and goes ahead towards Shoko. She takes off her earpiece and asks Ishida to throw it like he used to do. But to Naoka's surprise, he takes it and gave it back to Shoko. Naoka again takes it and asks if they are dating. Ishida tells her that they are friends. Naoka, on hearing this, ends up laughing. She is amused to see a bully is friends with the girl he bullied. She finds it lame and leaves. Shoko is unaware of what they talked about and asks. But Ishida dismisses it by saying it was nothing important. He bids Shoko goodbye and leaves. The next day, surprisingly, Shoko changes her hairstyle and put on a ponytail. Yuzuru asks if there's a special occasion, but Shoko is embarrassed to tell the reason and makes a weird face. After school, she meets with Ishida. But strangely, instead of using sign language, she tries to speak. However, the words are hard to understand. Ishida requests her to use sign language. Shoko asks if she sounds weird. Ishida replies yes. This made Shoko upset. Ishida realizes he was harsh and comforts by saying it was not very weird. As Ishida is about to leave, Shoko stops him and gives him a bag. Ishida opens it and sees 3 animal-like candies, but gives a closer look and notices they are not candy. He is confused and asks about it. Shoko gathers her courage and confesses her love. However, because she can't pronounce words properly, instead of saying I love you, she ends up saying I love mu. Ishida misinterpreted and thought Shoko is saying she loves Moon. Shoko just couldn't gather enough courage to clarify the misunderstanding, and ends up leaving in frustration. As soon as she reaches home, she jumps onto her bed. Yuzuru receives a message from Shoko, in which she reveals she confessed her love, but Ishida didn't understand. The following day, surprisingly, Miki has changed her hairstyle, and other students are amazed to see it. Ishida remembers how Shoko also changed her hairstyle. So he asks Miki the reason she changed her hairstyle. Miki blushes. She doesn't give a direct answer and replies it's just a girl's thing. But she does tell Ishida about Mishiba's desire to be his friend. And afterward, Miki and Mishiba are introduced to Sahara and Tomo. Ishida shares with Yuzuru how yesterday, Shoko was trying to say something but he wasn't able to understand. He asks if by any chance Shoko is upset with him. Yuzuru suggests Ishida to find it himself. So Ishida invites Shoko to the amusement park on Sunday. Shoko is very excited and immediately agrees. On Sunday, unexpectedly, Naoka has also come. Ishida isn't worried to see her. He realizes it's Miki who invited her. As they get on the roller coaster, he asks Sahara if she is okay with Naoko around. Because after what happened, things must be awkward between them. But Sahara assures that everything is okay. In fact, they are in the same school and as well as the same club. So now she doesn't find her scary. Ishida is amazed to see, unlike him, Sahara has overcome her bullying. As Ishida spends time riding various rides, he is starting to have a lot of fun. After he was bullied by his own friends and excluded from their group, Ishida was afraid to talk to other people or make any friends. But now he is regaining his joy like he used to. Naoka wants some takoyaki, so she takes Ishida with her. But unexpectedly, there he meets Shimada. Ishida is still uncomfortable, so he didn't say anything and just leaves. On the way, Naoka tries to explain she was only trying to make sure they make up, but Ishida just ignores her. Naoka blames Shoko. Because of her, their friendship got ruined. And if she hadn't come in their life, everything would have been fine. Ishida defends Shoko. He tells Naoka that Shoko is not to be blamed and requests her to stop interfering with his life. Naoka asks Ishida if he now hates her. And this time Ishida replies yes, he does. Upon hearing this, Naoka has a sudden urge and asks Shoko to come with her to the Ferris wheel. But before they go, Yuzuru gives Shoko her camera in case she got some good shots. The scene shifts to the next day. Yuzuru comes to Ishida's home. She shows him the footage of when Shoko went with Naoka to the Ferris wheel. In it, Naoka expresses her disgust towards Shoko. She tells her how she and other girls wanted to stay away from her and gave indirect signals. But despite it, she followed them with her creepy notebook. And whenever something happened, she just apologized. Naoko blames Shoko for the reason Ishida's friendship got ruined. And no matter what, she will always hate her. Shoko tells Naoka that just like everyone, she also hates herself. But Naoka didn't understand it and slapped her for talking weirdly again. Yuzuru and Ishida are in worry to see this. The next day, during lunch, Mishiba got to know about Shoko's bullying in her early years. Miki didn't reveal who the boy was, but briefly told about how hard it was for Shoko. Mishiba asks Ishida if he knows the person, but Ishida didn't answer and immediately goes to the class to ask Miki the reason she is bringing up the past for no reason at all. Ishida doesn't like the fact that Miki didn't tell Mishiba how she and Naoka with other girls used to make fun of Shoko as well, and indirectly put the blame only on him. Miki is emotional to see Ishida is blaming her for the things he did. Without holding back, she reveals that it was Ishida who used to bully Shoko, and now he is blaming her for his mistake. Tomo and Mishiba are in disbelief. Suddenly, Ishida starts to feel sick and leaves the school. Thinking back on what he did, Ishida realizes he just can't escape his actions. After some time, he meets with Shoko and others. But soon, Tomo with others also joins. Miki apologizes that she shouldn't have to bring up the past, but still clarifies that it was Ishida and Naoka's fault that it all happened. Naoka with a surprised tone asks Miki how she is blaming only her and Ishida when she also used to laugh whenever Shoko was being badmouthed. But Miki is not ready to accept her involvement. Ishida sits down, and while covering his face tells everyone it was his fault only. However, when Sahara tells Ishida to not think like that, Ishida with a low tone tells her to shut up. Because he doesn't want to hear from someone who will run away like a coward whenever anything bad happens. And when Miki asks the reason he's saying such harsh things, Ishida shuts her up also, by reminding she only cares about herself. Miki starts crying and leaves. Tomo realizes Ishida is not in his right mind. So he put Ishida's bag next to him and leaves. Mishiba tells Ishida that he is really awful. But Ishida reminds him he is an outsider and to keep his nose out of it. Shoko didn't hear anything, but still, she can see things are not right at all. The summer vacation has started. Together with Shoko, he goes to spend some time together in a place where there is minimal crowd. But strangely, throughout the day Shoko kept a distance from Ishida. And later, she finally tells Ishida that he should stay away from her because it will make him unhappy. But despite it, all summer break Ishida still spends his time with Shoko, and even helped her in making a cake for Yeiko's birthday. At first, Yeiko was obviously angry to see him, but after a lot of persuasion from Shoko and Yuzuru, she forgives Ishida. During dinner, Yuzuru invites Ishida to come and watch the fireworks with them. At first, Ishida was hesitant, but he finally agrees. And on the day of the festival, all four of them together watch the fireworks. After Yuzuru with Yeiko goes to bring something to eat, Ishida thanks Shoko for inviting him. He asks if they can watch the fireworks next year as well. Shoko gives a smile. Shoko gets up and leaves for home as an excuse to study. When Ishida tries to come along, she refuses and goes by herself. After some time, Yuzuru returns and requests Ishida to bring her camera from home. Ishida goes. After arriving, he rings the bell. But when Shoko didn't answer the door, he enters. As he takes the camera, he sees Shoko climbing over the railing. Ishida starts to panic. He rushes to stop her, but accidentally he hit his leg against the chair and falls. With all his strength he begs Shoko to not jump. But despite the efforts, Shoko still jumps. Fortunately, Ishida is able to grab her hand in time. However, he doesn't have enough strength to pull her up. He begs Shoko to not hate herself, because there are people who genuinely love her and don't find her a burden. Ishida requests her to not take the blame for what he did upon herself. He promises that he will make up with everyone, and requests her to not give up on her life. As Shoko uses her strength also, Ishida successfully pulls her up. However, he couldn't maintain his balance and ended up falling instead. As soon as Ishida has an impact, he goes unconscious. The next day at the hospital, Yaeko and Yuzuru gets on their knees and apologizes for forgiveness. Miyaka tells them to get up, but she ends up crying as well. Outside, Naoka is beating Shoko for what she did to Ishida. She calls her a cancer who only knows how to ruin others' life. As she is about to slap her, Yaeko holds Naoka's hand and slaps her. Naoka gets furious and starts slapping Yaeko as well. Miyako comes and stops them. Shoko gets emotional. She holds Miyako's leg and begs for forgiveness. Miyaka couldn't say anything and ends up crying as well. At night, in Shoko's home, we got to know that just before Shoko transferred her school, she tries to take her life. She didn't want to be a burden on others' life and thought it would be for the best. Fortunately, she physically recovered quickly. And to make sure she doesn't ever think of taking her life again, Yuzuru quit her school so she can help Shoko. But despite the efforts, seeing Shoko again tried taking her life, Yuzuru is devastated and doesn't know what else to do. The next day, Tomo and Shoko come to meet Ishida, but Naoka won't let them in. Outside, Shoko tells Tomo how because of her, Ishida lost his every friend. And now she wants to make up for it. So without any delay, Shoko goes to apologize to Sahara and Miki. But when she tries talking to Naoka, she was unable to. No matter how many times she approaches, Naoka ignores her. But finally, after some days, they both have a talk. At night, Shoko suddenly wakes up after having a nightmare about Ishida's death. She runs and goes to the bridge. There she starts crying. At this moment, Ishida suddenly wakes up after dreaming about Shoko. He doesn't remember how he got into the hospital. But he is worried about Shoko's well-being and leaves the hospital to see her. When he arrives at the bridge, Ishida sees her and is glad to see her okay. On seeing him, Shoko gets emotional. Ishida calms her down by telling he is fine now. Ishida apologizes. He believes it was because of him trying to get close to Shoko, she tries to take her life. But Shoko, while crying, expresses if she could have changed and accepted herself, Ishida wouldn't be in this position. Ishida tries to calm her. He tells Shoko not to blame herself, because just like her, he also tried to take his life. But he couldn't because, in the end, he thought he just don't deserve to die. Ishida holds Shoko's hand and asks if she would help him to live. Both of them promise that from now on they will never think of taking their life and will help each other to live a meaningful life. The next day, Ishida returns home and receives a tight hug from Maria. After knowing Naoka nursed him the entire time, he goes to thank her. There Ishida got to know that it was Shimada and Kei who pulled him out. But they told Naoka to keep it secret. As Naoka leaves, the cross mark falls. Ishida arrives home and goes upstairs to meet Yuzuru. After Shoko's persuasion, Yuzuru has decided to resume her education. But because her grades are so bad, she requests Ishida to tutor her. The next day, Ishida is ready to face others and apologize. But there is also a sudden sense of nervousness deep within. He meets up with Shoko. As soon as he enters the school, he starts hearing students talking about him as the boy who jumped. Shoko could see how nervous Ishida is. So she holds his hand and takes him to his class. Upon opening the door, as soon as Ishida sees his classmate's face, he gets nervous and goes to the restroom because of a sudden pain in his stomach. Tomo, after seeing Ishida, rushes to the restroom and is glad to see him in great condition. He assures him to not worry about what happened on the bridge because everyone has forgiven him. Ishida goes outside and apologizes to Miki and Mishiba. Miki, while crying, gives a gift that everyone in the class helped in making. Ishida is clueless about what it is but shows his gratitude. Soon, Sahara and Naoka also join them. Ishida apologizes to Sahara for what he said. Naoka sees Shoko's worried face and tells her everything is fine, you idiot. Shoko holds Naoka's hand and corrects her on how to correctly say, idiot. But Naoka is embarrassed to say anything and goes ahead. Together with everyone, Ishida goes out to see the festival. Finally, after many years, He opens his ears and everyone's cross marks fall down. Seeing a world with a whole different perspective, Ishida gets emotional. If you enjoyed the recap, please consider liking and subscribing this channel. Have a wonderful day ahead.